Hollywood has seen its share of heartbreak, but nothing prepared the industry for what Jack Nicholson would say about Diane Keaton. At 88 years old, the legendary actor rarely speaks publicly anymore, retreating from the spotlight he once dominated. But when Diane passed away on October 11, 2025, Nicholson broke his silence with words that sent shockwaves through Tinseltown. "Goodbye, Diane," he said simply, and those two words carried the weight of more than 5 decades of friendship, chemistry, and something the cameras never fully captured. What he revealed next would make even the most hardened Hollywood veterans reach for tissues. The timing of Keaton's passing hit especially hard because of what almost nobody knew. Just months before her death, she attended Nicholson's 88th birthday party, one of her final public appearances. Actor Ed Begley Jr., who worked with Keaton on the book club films, was there that night and later described the scene with a mix of fondness and sorrow. He remembered her being vibrant, engaged, the life of the party as always. She had that signature Keaton energy, the kind that made everyone in the room feel like they were part of something special. Nobody at that celebration could have imagined it would be one of the last times Hollywood's elite would see her alive. The woman who had danced through decades of cinema, who had made America fall in love with her quirky charm and emotional depth, was quietly approaching her final chapter. And Nicholson, celebrating his own milestone birthday, had no idea he was about to lose one of the most important people in his life. Their connection went far beyond the professional. Though their on-screen chemistry in 2003's Something's Gotta Give became the stuff of legend. But here's what most people don't know about that film: the movie that brought them together in a way that changed both their lives. Director Nancy Meyers later confessed something that stunned fans who thought they were watching pure acting magic. In the film's most emotional scene, where Keaton's character breaks down crying while listening to a song, those tears weren't manufactured for the camera. They were real. Keaton had tapped into something genuine, something raw from her own life, and Meyers kept the cameras rolling because she recognized authentic emotion when she saw it. But the revelations didn't stop there. Nicholson himself admitted in interviews that during filming, he genuinely believed Keaton had fallen in love with him, not as her character loving his character, but as Diane loving Jack. The lines between performance and reality had blurred so completely that even a seasoned professional like Nicholson couldn't tell where the acting ended and genuine feeling began. Their scenes together crackled with an intensity that had audiences wondering if they were witnessing something more than just great performances. What made their connection even more intriguing was understanding Keaton's romantic history, a tale of Hollywood's most eligible bachelors and a woman who somehow always chose herself over settling down. Before Nicholson entered her life in a meaningful way, she had already loved and lost some of the most iconic men in film history. Her relationship with Woody Allen in the 1970s gave us Annie Hall, a film that earned her an Oscar and cemented her as a generational talent. But Allen couldn't give her what she ultimately needed, and they parted ways, though they remained collaborators. Then came Al Pacino, her Godfather co-star, and by all accounts, this was the love that almost changed everything. They dated on and off throughout the late 70s and 80s, with an intensity that matched their on-screen personas. But when Keaton pushed for marriage, Pacino pulled back. He couldn't or wouldn't commit, and in 1990, she gave him an ultimatum. Either they moved forward together permanently, or it was over. Pacino chose his freedom, and Keaton walked away from what many believed was the great love of her life. In between those Pacino years, she also dated Warren Beatty, the notorious Hollywood playboy who had charmed countless leading ladies. Their 5-year relationship from 1978 to 1983 was passionate but ultimately unsustainable. A pattern was emerging. Keaton attracted the most talented, most complicated men in Hollywood, but none of them could convince her to compromise who she was. So when motherhood called, she answered on her own terms, and this decision shocked even those who thought they knew her well. In 1996, at age 50, Keaton adopted her daughter Dexter. 5 years later, she brought home her son Duke. She did this as a single woman, without a husband, without following any traditional script for how life was supposed to unfold. In interviews, she spoke candidly about the choice, admitting that motherhood wasn't an overwhelming biological urge, but rather a deeply considered decision that came to her later in life. Her father's death had made her acutely aware of mortality, of legacy, of what truly mattered when everything else faded away. Those two children became her greatest accomplishment, more important than any Oscar, any iconic role, any Hollywood romance. She told People magazine in 2019 that she considered herself strange for never marrying, but she also recognized that her path, however unconventional, was authentically hers. The men she had loved were remarkable, but they couldn't fit into a life she was still designing for herself. Motherhood gave her purpose in a way that fame never could, and by all accounts, she embraced it with the same intensity she brought to her craft. The end came with shocking swiftness, the kind that leaves loved ones reeling and searching for answers that don't provide comfort. On the morning of October 11, 2025, emergency responders rushed to Keaton's home in Los Angeles. She was transported to St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, but doctors couldn't save her. Bacterial pneumonia had taken hold with devastating efficiency. She was 79 years old. Her death certificate, obtained by media outlets days later, revealed that no autopsy was performed. The cause was listed simply as primary bacterial pneumonia, with no other significant contributing factors noted. For someone who had seemed so vital just months earlier at Nicholson's birthday party, the speed of her decline was almost incomprehensible. By October 14th, just 3 days after her passing, she had been cremated. Her family, including Dexter and Duke, released a brief statement through People magazine, thanking fans for their extraordinary messages of support and confirming that pneumonia had claimed their mother. They requested privacy and suggested donations to local food banks in her memory, a characteristically humble request from a woman who never fully embraced the trappings of celebrity. And then came Nicholson's tribute, the words that would make headlines and break hearts across the entertainment world. Speaking from his Los Angeles home, where he has largely remained in recent years, the reclusive legend opened up about losing Keaton in a way that revealed just how deep their bond truly ran. "Diane wasn't just a co-star," he said, his voice carrying the weight of decades. "She was a light. She was unpredictable, funny, deeply emotional, all the things that make a person unforgettable." He recalled meeting her during Hollywood's New Wave era in the 1970s, when both were ascending to stardom. Even then, he remembered being drawn to her charisma and unique presence. "She was one of a kind even then," he reflected. "You'd walk into a room and everyone would just orbit around her. She didn't try. It was just Diane being Diane." But it was their work on Something's Gotta Give that transformed their relationship into something neither had anticipated. "That film changed my life," Nicholson admitted. "We were both at that point in our lives where love seemed like something you'd already lived through. But Diane, she made me believe in it again." He praised her distinctive acting style, calling her honest, fearless, and completely herself. "She cared deeply about truth in every scene," he noted. "She could make something simple feel profound. That was her gift." Their friendship endured long after filming wrapped, sustained by a connection that didn't require constant contact to remain meaningful. "We stayed close after the movie," Nicholson explained. "We'd talk, laugh, sometimes not talk for a while, then pick up right where we left off. That's what real friendship looks like." She never changed. Keanu Reeves, who played the younger romantic interest in Something's Gotta Give, also shared his memories of watching Keaton and Nicholson work together. During a recent premiere, Reeves described being mesmerized by their dynamic, particularly during a scene filmed in a Parisian restaurant. "It was cool for me," he said. "I got to watch Diane and Jack at a table just going back and forth, trading insults and making each other laugh. Nancy Meyers was directing, but it felt like watching something spontaneous and real happen in front of you." Reeves called Keaton extraordinary, remembering her warmth and genuine kindness on set. These testimonials painted a picture of a woman who inspired not just through her performances but through her very presence. Nicholson's final words carried a finality that resonated with anyone who had ever lost someone irreplaceable. "She gave the world so much joy," he said, his statement growing more emotional, "and she did it with grace, curiosity, and courage. There'll never be another Diane Keaton. Not in 1,000 years. He paused before concluding simply, I loved her. We all did, and we always will. Those words, goodbye, Diane, became more than just a farewell. They became a recognition of everything she represented, the unconventional path she carved, the authenticity she maintained, the hearts she touched both on camera and off. In an industry built on illusion, Keaton had somehow remained startlingly real. Her final film, Summer Camp, shot in western North Carolina with co-stars Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard, stands as a testament to her enduring work ethic and passion for storytelling. Even in her late 70s, she was still choosing projects, still collaborating, still finding new ways to connect with audiences. The film, a comedy about old friends reuniting at their childhood summer camp, felt almost prophetic in its themes of nostalgia, friendship, and the passage of time. Those who worked with her on that production described an actress still fully committed to her craft, still generous with fellow performers, still bringing that unmistakable Keaton energy to every scene. What Diane Keaton left behind goes far beyond her impressive filmography or her Oscar wins. She redefined what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood on her own terms. She loved deeply but refused to lose herself in the process. She chose motherhood when everyone said she was too old. She walked away from men who wouldn't meet her where she stood. She wore turtlenecks and hats not because stylists told her to, but because that was her armor, her signature, her choice. In an era when actresses were expected to fade gracefully into supporting roles, Keaton kept leading, kept evolving, kept surprising us. Her relationship with Nicholson, whether it was friendship or something more complex, represented the kind of mature connection that Hollywood rarely portrays honestly. Two people who had lived full, complicated lives finding something genuine in each other's company, even if it didn't fit a traditional romantic narrative. The outpouring of grief from colleagues, fans, and friends in the days following her death revealed just how profoundly she had impacted popular culture. Social media filled with clips from her iconic films, photos of her distinctive style, stories from people who had met her briefly but remembered the encounter forever. Meryl Streep called her a trailblazer. Reese Witherspoon credited her with showing women they could be funny, vulnerable, and powerful simultaneously. Younger actresses spoke about studying her performances, trying to understand how she made vulnerability look like strength. The tributes flowed from every corner of the entertainment world, but none carried quite the emotional punch of Nicholson's words. Perhaps because he understood something the public could only guess at. The private Diane, the one who existed away from red carpets and interviews, the one who made pancakes at midnight and laughed at her own insecurities and chose solitude over compromise. Her children, Dexter and Duke, now 29 and 25 respectively, face a future without the woman who chose them, who built a family on her own terms, who showed them that conventional paths aren't the only ones worth taking. In the photographs that circulated after her death, Duke was seen leaving the family home dressed in black, his face reflecting the grief of losing a mother who had been wholly present, wholly committed to being his parent despite Hollywood's demands. Keaton had often spoken about how her children grounded her, gave her life meaning beyond the accolades and fame. They were her greatest role, she said, the one that mattered most when everything else was stripped away. As Hollywood processes this loss, as Nicholson retreats back into his private grief, as fans revisit Annie Hall and Something's Gotta Give and The First Wives Club with new appreciation, a truth emerges. Diane Keaton lived exactly as she wanted to live. She loved whom she chose to love. She created art that mattered. She raised children who will carry her legacy forward. She maintained friendships that sustained her. And when the end came, she left behind a body of work and a life story that will continue inspiring people to choose authenticity over expectations. Nicholson's tribute wasn't just about saying goodbye to a co-star or even a friend. It was about acknowledging the passing of a truly unique spirit, someone who couldn't be replicated or replaced, someone who made everyone around her believe in possibilities they had stopped imagining. Goodbye, Diane. Indeed, Hollywood will never see another quite like her. And perhaps that's exactly how she would have wanted it. singular and unforgettable until the very end.